Hey guys, my name is Gary. Get my caller right. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and drug addict. And tonight I'm gonna give you my personal experience with step 8. And step 8 is we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. So, should think about these damn things before I turn the fucking camera on. But step 8 is it's a good one. Okay, on my amends list, I'll give you a few examples. Ex-wife, okay, and I have 3 sons. My middle son Brandon just passed away a couple of months ago. 2.5 months ago from an accidental fentanyl overdose. And so I've got some amends to make to him. And I've got some amends to make to my other kids. And I got amends to the ex-wife, When I first got sober, I had, financial amends to the ex-wife and, child support and stuff like that. And I did my best to stay on track, and I never missed any payments, but I was late on payments. And, sometimes it was hard, but, I never ever tried to get out of those responsibilities. And I destroyed a marriage, like I had said in the previous video. We had things going wrong in my marriage in 2002, and when I got sober, and we were separated at that time. And what do you do? So when you split up with a person, how do you make amends to that person? Well, you just try to live. I tried to live a better life with her. I tried not to mix it up with her over things. Tried to stay out of her program, or tried not to participate if she was resentful at me. Never did it perfectly, but I had the program to fall back on and to use to get through this stuff. We raised 3 sons together while we were separated and divorced. And the way I made amends to my kids was, that they were on my amends list because, I would disappear for weeks on end, doing drugs and alcohol when I was out drinking. And then when I got sober, I was hit with all that guilt and shame, and all that stuff hit my resentment list on myself, and they hit my amends list. And when I got sober in 2002, I pretty much raised my kids sober. I think the oldest was like 8, 9 or 10 when I got sober. Brandon, my middle one, was like 8 or 9, and the baby was 4. So what I did was I tried to be the best father I could be. Like I said, I didn't miss payments, and I tried to be in the kids' lives as much as I could. I gave the kids my, the kids all had cell phones. I made sure they all had cell phones, and I made sure they knew how to dial dad, or, it was saved in their phone. They all had a key to my apartment. I moved close to the ex-wife and right across the street from their school. and I coached and I participated in their practices. Even if if I wasn't coaching, I still tried to make all their practices. I didn't make 100% of them, but I made most of them. And I made every game they ever played, unless I don't even think, I was sick for a game. I always went to my kids' games when they had, they all participated in sports and stuff. And then I just tried to be their father and be the best father that I could be in their life. Brandon chose to live with me a lot of the time. And I remember later in my sobriety, or, I don't know, I probably had 5, 6 years sober. I lived in Newport Beach on Balboa Island. It was like a fantasy island, And I wanted to give the kids the best environment possible, and that was a great environment to raise kids in. It was safe, and surrounded by people that made a lot of money, and um, it was a wealthy area, and it was safe. To let your kids walk around at night, to let your kids uh, walk around the island, and when you're not home. When I was, I'd work and I'd try to get home early when I had Brandon. I'd try to pick him up from school every day, and I was trying to make him get to do his homework. I remember, and I wasn't equipped with, the shit doesn't come with a book, right? How to be a parent. Well, there's a million books now how to be a parent, but when you have a kid, it doesn't. There's not instructions that pop out with it. You just kind of feel your way around and do your best. And thank God I had AA, because I remember Brandon. He's more stubborn than I am, and I was trying to get him to do his homework. And I've made other videos about this, but I was trying to get him to do his homework, and he wasn't doing his homework. And I was screaming and yelling at him. And while I'm screaming at this kid, there's a voice inside me going, "Shut up. This is not how you want to treat your kid," So what I did is I knew I wanted to be a better dad. And I knew that wasn't the way. I knew he deserved better than what I was giving him. So I went into therapy. And in doing that, we got to dig deeper into Gary, and that was probably the best thing for me. But to stay on the amends thing, so I stayed close to my kids. That was the biggest thing for me. And then I relapsed. So I relapsed. I put prescription medication in my body, and I was not spiritually fit for whatever reason. And I was sponsoring guys and stuff, and I ended up taking the whole bottle in like 2 or 3 days, and I never went back to AA. I was out for 10 years, and in that 10 years, I was, I did any drug that was available. I'd try anything while I was out there, but I liked going up, so I did amphetamines. I did. It started out with just Adderall, and then it went to crystal, and then it went to coke, and whatever brought me up. And then I got sober like 6.5 months ago. Almost 6.5 months exactly. Like today, it's 6.5 today. And while I was out, I didn't. I mean, I not to say I didn't create wreckage, right? But I wasn't this. My kids were older; they had their own lives, and Brandon lived with me again. And my amends, I was just unavailable as a, just being I'm just a different person drinking and using drugs than I am sober. I take care of business well when I'm sober. I attend to my relationships when I'm sober. I'm a good ex-husband when I'm sober. I'm a good father when I'm sober. And all that shit just kind of, I'm more interested when I'm drinking and using in getting loaded than being a parent or being a good ex-husband or shit. I would go a year without talking to her, my ex-wife, while I was loaded this last time out. You know, unless something came up with the kids. I mean, that's what kept us, you know, bonded or together. We couldn't just completely ignore each other because we had kids, even though they were adults. And you know, kids still need their parents, and we still need to discuss things. And Brandon was using pretty hard, and a lot of our conversations were over Brandon. The other two have had problems, but they seem to work them out, and they're not put together like my son and I were. And they just don't, you know, I don't know if they're alcoholic or not. They drink. You know, it's not for me to judge. It's not for me to diagnose them. They have their moments where they can drink hard and then they can stop. I was never just one that I could stop. You know, I would say they could be hard drinkers, but they perform their life well. I could never balance the two. You know, so Brandon and I were a lot alike. We were over the edge. You know, we lived on the edge. We lived dangerously, and you know, and eventually it cost him his life. And like I said, it's hard stuff to go through. So my amends are with my kids right now. I've got an older son. He's got a baby he just had, and I spent some time with him today at his house with my grandson, and that was good stuff. So I spent time with him. I was able to be present for him and my grandson, and you know, I try to be there emotionally, financially, if they need it, whatever. I try to be there for my kids. You know, because walking up and saying sorry doesn't cut it. You gotta perform the action. You know, and the oldest is still a little bit doesn't trust me. You know, he doesn't trust me. He doesn't know if I'm gonna go away again, probably, or I don't know. I don't know. We never talk about it. He doesn't talk to me about it. He doesn't want to, so I can't force him to. And the youngest, who probably saw the least amount of my drinking and using, we have a great relationship. You know, I get on his nerves. You know, just being a dad and being me. But we have a great relationship, and not that my oldest and I have a bad relationship, but we just there's something there, and it's because I am who I am, and I've done what I've done. So hopefully it gets better, and I know it will. So I try not to smother them and say, look, you know, I'm sober. But I try to just live a good life and be there for them in any possible way that I can. And I probably get on their nerves. So, and the ex-wife, I just, you know, I have a newfound respect for her, you know. She lost her son. We lost our son. And you know, not too many people in this world have to go through that, but I'll put it this way, a lot of people go through it, but yeah, I hope nobody, or I hope a lot of people don't have to go through that, but it's a cross some of us have to bear. It's just what I'm trying to say is it's an unnatural thing to bury a child or to lose a child. You know, you expect yourself to go first, and the reckless living my son Brandon did. As hard as it is to say, we all kind of had in the back of our minds that this could happen, and our worst nightmare came true that day. So I cut her any slack that she wants, man. Um, you know, I know how she feels. So um, I know how she hurts inside. So I try to be mindful of that, and you know, we're getting through it. You know, we're getting through it. It's a hard thing to lose a child. So I didn't expect this, but so then there's other amends. You know, there's amends like you don't want to like when it says a lot of us were having affairs and things like that. We don't. I've had so many text messages come in. It's so fucking distracting, you guys, and it really throws me off. I'm so sorry. I'll get more professional. But the a lot of us were out fucking around. I was one of them, and I wouldn't say this. I'm sure it's not easy to hear if my wife ever heard that, but she already knew about it, and um, you know, if your wife doesn't know, right? You don't go tell your wife, you know, I'm sorry I was cheating on you. That's not an amends. An amends is to amend the behavior. If she doesn't know you were doing it, and you want to stay in the marriage, then clean up your shit, man. And the way to do it is work the steps and make an amends. And the way you make an amends is not telling your wife, hey, I was banging Susie at the office, and I'm not going to do it anymore. You don't hurt other people with your shit, right? So if they don't know, then you don't want them to know. But you need to amend your behavior. And the way you amend your behavior is stop doing what you're doing and work steps on this stuff. And that's why we have a sponsor. Sponsors can walk through this stuff with us. You become a better husband or a better wife. You become present. You start hanging out with your spouse more. You start doing things with them. You start being proactive in the marriage and in their life. You start supporting them in their careers, in their just as a spouse. You support their life like they've supported yours, and they put up with a lot of shit with us drinking. If you've got a spouse that doesn't drink or use, and you're out fucking drinking and using, we've put them through a lot of hell. So you also, like, if you're banging the neighbor's wife, you don't go ring his doorbell and say, hey man, I was banging your wife and I'm sorry about that. We don't create more wreckage with amends. That's what a sponsor's for. That's what people that came before us, or priests or psychologists, we go to them for this advice. People that can guide us through this stuff. You don't want like me, right? You don't want to take my fucking advice. I'm just giving you my experience, right? But I'm also telling you what it says in the book when I say you don't tell your wife, you're banging Susie at the office. It tells us we don't harm other people. I mean, that should be common sense. But a lot of us think, oh, you know what, I'm going to clean my slate and we're going to start fresh. So I'm going to let her know that I'm banging Susie at the office and then I'm cleaning my slate. No, you're going to fucking just fuck shit up even worse. So you need guidance. I did. You want to handle it on your own, more power to you. And good luck to you. I would take God into those situations, though, and a lot of prayer. I'm not saying nobody's ever done that before, but, you know, everybody's different. I'm just telling you what worked for me and what the book says. And I choose to live my life by this book right here. Oh, sorry I got all down there, guys. But it's hard to talk about. I knew it was going to be hard going into this video because I knew I needed to talk about my son Brandon. So the way I make amends to my son Brandon, you know, probably the most pain caused is because I always wanted Brandon to get sober. I've sat in meetings with Brandon, and not to get too much into Brandon's story or anything, but it's part of my story too. And I had a son that was cut out like me. He thought like me, and in a lot of ways, and he was stubborn like me, and he had the obsession of he had the compulsion and the obsession. He had the allergy, and it took his life. So, very tough stuff when you're trying to give to your son and trying to give him sobriety. He knew I was sober, and I know he was happy about that, but he wasn't going to have it. Me telling him, hey, maybe hit a meeting, because I tried that with him, and he was like, you know, don't put your shit on me, man. Don't make me you. You know, he knew how to spin it off, to back me off. And he knew I would back off because he knew how I believed. And, you know, somebody has to find that on their own. So this is what I've done for my son, because I wasn't sober, and I have a lot of guilt over that in the last 10 years because I wasn't sober and guiding him, even though he lived with me and he knew I loved him, and we built jobs together and we worked together and we loved each other, but we were so much alike. We rarely got along, and that hurts. You know, that hurts. But he knew me probably better than I know myself, you know, and I definitely knew him better than he knew himself. So, my amends to my son is to stay sober and continue doing what I'm doing to help people with my story and with his. And I've been able to help people. So I've been fortunate enough to help people with this channel. People that came into the meetings. Sorry, you guys, I'm trying to keep it together right now. It's really hard, and I don't fucking edit videos. So what I try to do is you know, there's been people that got sober. There's one person in particular. I was in a meeting bawling my head off about my son, Brandon. And I just got back from identifying his body in Long Beach. And I was sitting in a meeting and bawling and telling the group what happened. And I looked up and everybody in the room was crying also. And these are people that I'm becoming to know pretty well. And there was a woman in particular, and she raised her hand for the first time in that meeting as an alcoholic. And she tells me today, she said, she didn't tell me today, but she tells me, like within the last 3-4 days, she said, and I've heard her say it before, you know, I saw you that day, and I felt, if he can do this with all that fucking pain that he's in and not drink, then I can probably not drink. So that was a painful day, man. And that's my amends to my son, to help people with our stories. So it's 25 minutes. So I'm going to just say there's financial amends. We don't dodge our creditors. We make a list of all those people that we owe money to, and be as detailed as you need to be. If you feel there's a lot of shit, like, because I ran a pretty good sized business, and there's fucking people I don't even know who I owe money to when I went down with this whole COVID thing, and I was drinking and using too. And, it's just a blur, some of this. So we have to stay in the state of, because a lot of people, like, you can write your amends down, and this has happened to me before. Just to let you know, the first time I got sober, I owed $3.5 million. Okay? Yeah, I owed the IRS. It was like almost, said it was like $1 million or something like that, just under $1 million. And I never paid that. That expired with the IRS, but the $2.2 million in other financial records, I arranged the best deal possible, because it says in the book we arranged the best deal possible. And I'm a business guy, right? And if that's 10 cents on the dollar, it's 10 cents on the dollar. But at least I'm in there grinding and doing business and trying to arrange the best deal possible. So a lot of these companies, the way business works, they sell the paper off to, if you buy a car from, Bank of America gives you the money for the car, or, you owe them the money for the car. So you're paying Bank of America, and then you stop paying on it, and they repo it, and then you owe a balance, and then there's a other company, and those are pretty much scumbag companies that go in there, and you can work real good deals with those guys. So now the paper's been sold to somebody else, so it's not even the same person that you owe money to. So it's all a big game, and it's all business. So, and I don't have any problem, arranging the best deal possible if it's a nickel on the dollar. So it is what it is. Now, I take personal amends a lot differently, than an amends to a huge bank like Bank of America. I still owe the money, and I arrange the best deal possible with them. But I'm not going to do that to, like, my brother or my parents, right? Now I'll settle for a nickel on the dollar, So you pay those people back, man. You arrange a payment plan that fits your schedule and that fits your whatever, income you're bringing in, and arrange the best deal possible. And you don't try to fuck people over. I mean, right now, you don't just say, hey, yeah, I'm sober, I'm living a new life, can we forget the tab? So I've done that, and I drank again too. So, and maybe that's why I wasn't spiritually fit. But out of that $3.3 million or something like that, it zeroed out balance. And I had a 750 FICO score after that. It took 7 years. And now I'm in the same boat. I don't even know what the wreckage is. I haven't totaled it all, but I'm willing to make amends. But I can't make $75,000 and $150,000 amends right now to corporations. I don't make that kind of money. Right now, I'm paying my parents back quite a bit of money right now, and I lost my son, and my finances are fucked right now. So I have to remain willing. I'm a guy who somehow comes out smelling like a rose usually after all this stuff. I've always been able to make a pretty good living. I make a decent living right now, and but you make a lot more when you own the company. So what I make in a year right now, I've made 2 and 3 times that in a month before. So the way I'm looking at this whole thing with my financial amends is it's I'm willing to make amends, but you can't give what you don't have. So I tell creditors, and I've told them on the phone, I don't have it, and I don't know when I will. And that's the best I can do for you right now. And they threaten, and then I say, I totally understand. If that's the course you need to take, then that's the course you need to take. And I've been sued like 3 times now, business-wise. So I've got judgments against the business and stuff like that. I don't know if they'll get paid. It all rectify. It will all. It's not something it's so overwhelming to think about. It's not something that I have to address overnight, right? But I have to remain willing to do the work. I have to remain willing to keep paying my parents back and to keep giving when I can give. I don't live a lavish lifestyle. I live in probably a 350 square foot apartment, and just a day at a time is what I'm doing. And I'm happy. I don't need all this money, and I'm not worried about it. It's there. It's going to be there. These people. The main thing is I take the phone calls and I'm honest with them. No, I don't have your money. No, I don't know when it'll be. I make a modest salary right now, and I'm not in business, and I don't plan on going into business, So it is what it is, and I haven't filed bankruptcy. I never did before, and I probably won't this time either. So that's how much I don't agree with fucking people over. But I can make, I don't want to go bankrupt and not pay everybody I owe, but they're going to have to wait. So that's 32 minutes. So I'm going to wrap it up, you guys. So that's how I approach amends, and I'm willing. I remain willing. I take the phone calls even though I don't have the money. And things will come up all the time, like that maybe I didn't remember I harmed somebody, and I'll see somebody and go, oh fuck, or they'll call and oh shit, that's right. And we take it with us. It doesn't say we have to do it perfectly all at once in one day. There was two founders of this program, Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. Dr. Bob went around like in a couple days sober and made all his amends all around the neighborhood in one long day. And Bill Wilson just created wreckage through his whole sobriety and shit like that, and he was a lot like me. He was, kind of a loose cannon, thought with his dick, and he was a real alcoholic, man. And he needed this program and these steps to get through his life. And that's me. So I'm just glad it's here. I'm glad you guys listen. Remember, subscribe. And I'll plug the Impact Foundation real quick. The Impact Foundation, LA.org. Go on that foundation's website, check it out. It's run by a friend named Vicky. And she started the organization or the foundation because her son died from an accidental fentanyl overdose, and she's been a friend since high school, and she's works around the clock, like 6 days a week, getting this thing off the ground. So if you can help us out, please go to the Impact Foundation, LA.org, hit the donate button. Thank you guys.